Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another live edition of Moffat on Money. Joined with the illustrious, unstoppable E Train. Oh, I'm getting a message to hold. Ellen is practicing her sign language. She's saying hey to everybody. She's pretty much unstoppable, but the technology is a little bit of an obstacle sometimes. Ellen, got no sound. Nothing. I can read lips. I will not interpret what that was. But I'd like to welcome everybody here, also joined by our fabulous moderator, Viking Wolf, who we very much appreciate handling the chat and the conversations. It's good to see everyone. Brentwood, Anonymous, Al, Carrie Berry's mom, and Chunk and Tallulah also say hey. You can see them in the background whispering to Ellen, trying to give her guidance. I tell you what, Ellen, there's this little mute mic button. I think I'll
Did
click
it already. Oh, you. No, it's on. You
You're
can't
on.
hear me.
Yes, you're good.
You can
You're
now.
back. Yes,
Oh, you
you're
muted
back.
me. Okay. Well, there you go.
And folks, that works exactly the same way in real life.
Yeah, it does. He tries
All
to hit
right,
the mute button on the remote for the TV to get me to stop talking, but it doesn't really ever work out.
we're still trying to work on the technology. We got it only down so far. You'd think after a month or two we'd have some of these little bugs worked out, but we're creative. We don't do the same one twice. So whatever that's
Actually,
worth.
we do.
I
The
haven't
mic thing
muted
is
you,
an
but
issue.
huh?
Oh,
Uh,
the mic thing has been an issue before.
Well, that's because it's always a new mic. Been messing around with different mics and stands and whatever.
I don't know what mic you're talking about, but I've had the same one for now for a few weeks.
Yeah, but it's
And
on a
so have
new
you.
boom,
Boom, boom, boom, boom.
boom. Anyway, glad to see everybody. Chuck and Tallulah say, hey, you'll probably see them before the night's out. They're right over Ellen's shoulder. And once they get a little attention deficit thing going, they'll be jumping up on screen. So how is everyone? Good to see you all on a beautiful Saturday night.
Yes, and
Chuck
it
and
won't take
Tallulah are
long.
in the background reminding Ellen to tell you to hit the subscribe and like buttons if you like the content. And, heck, even do it if you don't. We
Well,
we need to boost those numbers.
Chunk has stolen both of the chews, so Tallulah will be up here in short order.
Yeah. They're Morkies. They're supposed to be like little dinky dogs, and they are fairly little, but Chunk is about twice Tallulah's size, and he is her son. He's about 15 pounds. She's about 7. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic between the two. He's a little bit of a bully sometimes to her.
You think? She is to him too. Oh, here we go.
Professor of Logic dropping by to say hey and support. Can't stick around. Daughter has, let me read this correctly, prom tonight. It
Oh,
is good to see you. Do
I'm sure
appreciate you
she is
dropping in.
beautiful. I hope she is just the happiest human on the planet. That is very sweet. It's always a good night.
It is, as a dad, I can't say it's a good night
Well,
because I remember the nights and I was a little anxious. I wanted to meet this mullet that was taking my dressed up, glamorized daughter out. And I wasn't impressed. Can't say any of her dates impressed me, but nonetheless.
excuse me.
am happy for you, and know you have a beautiful young lady. Right now, she looks like a mummy wearing a facial thing that looks like bandages while she's getting ready.
What is that supposed to mean?
Facial bandages. Now, I don't believe
Oh,
I've seen
I
that
didn't
before.
see. I didn't see his. Oh, come on. Be sweet.
Is that like a silver skin treatments? I guess something like that.
I don't
I
know.
mean,
Hey,
I'm a
Nutrix.
dude. I'm a dude.
I
Our
know.
skin's always naturally beautiful.
Hey, Nutrix. Hey, Not a Mouse. Hey, Brentwood Chick. Thank you, Professor of Logic.
Yeah, we really do appreciate all y'all
667
stopping by.
and Viking. Love you. Smiling Owl. Awesome. I'm going to do, since Professor of Logic, since your daughter is doing her prom thing, um, I'm going to do a shameless plug on a company that we have no, besides that I love their products and Clay does too, kind of. So if you have never heard of, can you see that? Sol de Janeiro?
Butt sauce.
It's called Brazilian Bum Bum Cream, but Clay, after he tried it, he was like, I love it, but I will not refer to it as Bum Bum Cream. It is butt sauce from here on out. But they do, no. What do they, what else did you buy? Lip what?
The
He called it lipsticks today.
yeah,
See?
little chapstick. They
But they are
call it. I
awesome.
hate their names. They call it Brazilian Kiss. Whatever. You got to just get over the names. The products are pretty damn good. They're not cheap, but the like after the surgery, my legs were very dry, and just using regular whatever I had, Jergens or whatever, just didn't help. This stuff worked and did it well for a couple of days. It's really good stuff. So we both recommend it highly.
Yes, Clay was like, I'm not putting that stuff on my skin. I was like, oh, you're going to, because you can't move after your knee surgery. So I'm going to make you. And he was like, wow, this stuff really works good. So now it is like a constant in our home. All of the products.
Nutrix Boom Boom Cream. Yeah, I like butt sauce. That just kind of works. Professor Logic. People are concerned with the complexion and skin quality of my butt. I have bigger issues. I mean, okay, maybe it's just me, but throughout my life, I've been plagued with individuals obsessed with my butt. So what can I say?
Actually, you did this week. He had that this week. He was going to get some pants hemmed, and he had some ladies comment on his hiney.
We won't comment on all of that.
Okay. Moving forward.
This is a kind of a family show, but glad to have y'all. We even have,
no.
I think.
Hang on. Carrie Berry's mom, honey. I'm sorry you're sick.
I'm going to need to be replay crew, and I'm sick and fading. Enjoy your night. Carrie Berry, and I think Al also alluded to the same. She's midnight over in Britain, in the UK. Maybe not Britain, but to you both. We love you, appreciate you stopping by, saying hey, and we love you being part of the replay crew.
Absolutely. So, always happy to have you.
Yeah, for as long as you can be here, great, and it is good to see you. If you do go ahead and crash, then good night, sweet dreams, and God bless. Professor Logic, need to stop wearing short skirts, and you will save money on the cream. It's my financial advice in return. Professor of Logic, you don't understand. I'm Scottish. We don't wear dresses. We wear kilts. It takes a real man to put on a kilt. So kilts are cool, not dresses. Privileges of being Scott. Yeah, I figured that was addressed to you, Clay. If there was any question, I had no doubt. I kind of saw that one coming. The minute I saw it, I realized it. Um, had a had an old picture of Scottish regiment uh, charging a German position in World War I with fixed bayonets down in the trenches and jumping over the edge of the trench in their kilts. And the caption was, forgive me, but huge balls like this don't fit in pants. I rest my case. Catherine Frazier, what's your clan?
Fraser.
Moffat.
Oh, it's Fraser.
Oh, yes, like as in Outback Fraser.
Fraser. Mine is Sinclair and Carson.
So we both have a claim to Scottish blood. Both my father was, both of his parents were Scottish, and then my mom's side was a little Cherokee, a little French, a little Scottish.
So Fraser, we're cousins, huh?
Good to see you, Catherine. Catherine Fraser.
Yeah, the Sinclairs were from. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
The Sinclairs are from Alatyri, and the Carsons were Scottish and then moved to Ireland. So I'm not exactly sure where they originated from in Scotland.
Yeah, Professor, going to grab some of the wife skirts and say that to here. Expect me needing advice on divorce finances next week.
We got your back.
Yeah. Having been through that process a couple of times, I think I have some expertise in the area. So, and yeah, Clay, just go ahead and get your deed and sign it over. Go ahead and just expedite matters.
He's bought houses for many women.
Yeah. I decided next time I think about getting married, I'm just going to find a woman I can't stand and buy her a house. Save myself the lawyer fees. Not a mouse. That's why so many Scottish villages have more names on the war memorial on the square than people in the village now. Historically, they've been called the warrior class and have been highly successful and innovative in wars. That's why at one point in time, God entrusted them the formulation of his own magical elixir because they pledged their life, their honor, their fortunes to the preservation and protection of that formula and elixir. And so we today celebrate his gracious and kind and bounteous gifts.
I was about to suggest that.
For this we give thanks. Glenlivet, 18. It's probably my favorite.
The black bottle's my favorite.
Do what?
The black bottle's my favorite.
It's a Glenlivet Reserve.
No.
Which is also very good. I like Glenlivet. It's a Speyside whiskey. It's smooth. It's consistent. It's not sharp on the attack. Little undertones of port or cherries. They generally use port cask to age it.
I got to give a shout out real quick.
Give a shout out real quick.
Hey, Dukes. Zan's tired. Good to see you, girlie.
Yeah, it's good to see all of y'all. It feels like the gang's back together for another night. And we enjoy the hell out of that. Now, tonight, we've got a fair amount to cover, and I'm sitting here not sure exactly going to be able to get to it all. But
Oh, wait.
whatever we do, we'll have a little fun with it. Hopefully, learn a few things along the way. Cover some of the important stuff.
I have an announcement to make.
Ellen has the E Train.
The E Train,
Do I call you E Train or Ellen?
whatever you want to call me. That was always my nickname, was E Train, when I was growing up. Because I'm sure you can't imagine why, Clay. I'm
No
just like
idea.
a train wreck. We may have a special guest next Saturday. He has said he will be here. I'm having Clay confirm it tomorrow. But Ian, Runkle of the Bailey, is likely to be our special guest next Saturday night.
Yeah, we're excited about that, and still have to work out a few details. So, not going to count on it definitely, or it's a done deal. But we're going to be talking about Bernie Madoff and having his legal expertise. Ellen thought would be a very big addition to the discussion, and so we're excited and hope everything works out for that. So that'll be a lot of fun. Anonymous, E-Train, better than train puller.
Yeah. Train wreck, train puller, whatever. Sounds like an amazing
Professor
show.
Logic. You need to make sure to observe all of the elf culture traditions while he visits.
We will. Absolutely.
I might need a little updating on some of that.
We will have leather, sharp objects, and firearms just for his pleasure.
Now that sounds like a party. Throw in a little scotch on the side, maybe not with the firearms, but
Oh, Ian loves scotch too.
that sounds like a party. Anonymous, need to get Ian on because we don't go off on enough tangents here.
I know, right? Clay will be trying to reel in Ian and I, and Clay will be trying. He's like, "What?" Yeah, ADHD.
We do call it Saturday Night Live and Rambling for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And the rambling, I freely admit, the rambling oftentimes is the fun part. So, we do try to get some information that's hopefully useful. But the fun, hope to do it and enjoy it as well.
And Ian is traveling this week, and hopefully he will give us an update on his travels when he returns. Is that vague enough?
And that's kind of one thing we've been talking about a little bit is maybe expanding or broadening the comments on this channel. We kind of stuck closely generally to finance, but have talked a little bit about other issues which impact people's lives or have a rather significant impact on the economy, like the Great Reset. Did several videos on that and was generally fairly warmly
political.
Received. It's a little political. So we, are kind of considering broadening the topics or areas covered, the discussions covered on here. And so if you've got any feedback or, on that, then let us know.
Yeah, we'd love your opinion. We have opinions, but they're not we don't. What am I trying to say, Clay? We don't squash anyone else's.
Yeah, we still want to be courteous to everyone, to respect, different opinions. I like controversial topics because it's that open and free exchange of information or ideas is how I learn. And I mean, I love learning. I love discussion. I love thoughts. And sometimes it can be modestly interesting. So, instead of just strictly focus, we're still going to be primarily, talking about money and finance and investing and, things going on in the market. But we might expand the rambling part a little bit. And yes, new tricks. I did talk about butt sauce.
He will not call it bum bum cream or boom boom cream or anything. It is butt sauce. That's it.
No, it's
This one's really
butt
good
sauce
too.
just
It's
seems
the
to work.
Bomb Dia Bright Cream. Love this. Sorry.
I don't know what the
Shameless.
difference is between it and the regular butt sauce,
It has
but it smells good.
it is the most moisturizing one they have.
Yeah, the other one was better than anything else I've tried in all my years. And Ellen says the Bon Dia is even more so.
It is the
So
bomb.
take it for what it's worth. It's good stuff.
Butt
Modern
sauce is
economy
fun.
and its conflict with liberty, can they coexist? No. I don't think you can have increasing government control telling you what you can and can't produce, what you can and can't buy, or, I would say also that taxes are a hidden regulation as they increase taxes on fuels and certain products and imports that limits your ability to buy it. So that's kind of a hidden cost somewhat, but the bigger government gets, it comes at a cost. Now, a lot of people want to trade safety for maybe some of their freedoms. But that'll be some of the things that we talk about. Professor Logic. Funny, I've always figured a moist butt was a worst case scenario.
That's called butt sweat. No, it is a worst case scenario.
Yeah, depends on a few things there.
No, I think that a lot of the
Go ahead.
I think that a lot of the things that we're facing here in the now and in the future, the not so distant future, it's gonna really tax the way that you think. I mean, the US is headed at this point towards a socialism, Marxism avenue. That's what we're going down right now. And I think that that's very dangerous. And I don't think that that is the best way to handle the greatest country that ever existed. It's
Yeah, I
not
mean,
a good path.
There are some cases in front of the Supreme Court, and I wish one of the Ian or one of the lawyers was on maybe to discuss this a little bit more. But the Supreme Court is considering cases where the agencies, the regulators, started making laws of their own, and traditionally laws originate in Congress. And then the agencies enforce those laws. They interpret them, but they've really taken this ability to interpret and started creating new regulations.
Wait, back up. So I thought that it was the people who needed the laws that went to their senators, that went to Congress, that created them. Kind of like if you've ever crossed a train track, which everyone has, that has the arms that come down on the lights, they don't install those unless someone has passed or died on that train track in that area. That's what makes them put those there. I thought it was the people that went to their state, and then their senators to Congress, and then laws were made. I'm just
Well,
a bill
certainly
on Capitol Hill.
citizens can go to their representatives and request laws that the senator back a certain position or law, write it up, propose it. But that's the thing. The laws should originate. Budgetary bills have to originate in the House. The Senate can originate bills on anything else, pass it to the House for its approval and consent, and then go to the president for signature. And then it's given to the regulatory agencies to enforce and fill in any small details or, technical aspects that need to be filled in. And some of the cases in front of the Supreme Court is where they're not just writing the technical specs or how to, the enforcement of those provisions passed by Congress. They're coming up with new provisions on their own. So that's before the Supreme Court. But the idea is kind of following what you set up earlier, is that government power continues to increase, government cost and spending continues to increase as a percentage of the overall economy.
I just thought it was, that's why we hired them. That's why, because we pay them. We pay their salaries. We pay them to do what we ask them to do. Has that just entirely fallen by the wayside?
There's a lot of people that would say yes. I would say there's still remnants of it, but with the cost to run for office, the people who donate the money are the huge voices that they listen to. Their time's only so limited.
Back that ass up. Remember Virginia, the guy that was not elected with like $3,000.
Yeah.
I think it was Virginia. I mean, because people are just sick of it. Was it Virginia? Y'all chat will.
Yeah, some of our sleuths will dig up the details.
Y'all let me know. I think it was Virginia. Was it not?
I don't remember specifically.
I am delusional and not a mouse. I know. I will find a pet for him. Clay has one in the house for me just in case I get, too off in case I derail the E train. Ha ha ha.
No, she's feisty. I wouldn't call it delusional. But when she gets her mind made up on something, she gets a head of steam.
Yes, they did. Dadgummit. I'm a Leo. I can't help it.
Okay. New tricks. Oh, Ellen, you sweet summer child. You are describing the way it's supposed to be, but didn't Congress just give themselves a raise while talking about cutting spending? Come on, New Tricks. Do you know how difficult it is to live on $200,000 a year?
Whoa. Wait. Isn't Pelosi in the Senate? Oh, Brentwood chick.
No, Pelosi was in the House.
Girly. Well, they gave themselves a raise too, I believe. But yet
they did.
She is the wealthiest person in the House.
Don't know. I saw where her wealth was in excess of $230 million, all of it acquired while she was been in the House.
How?
Which I'm reminded of a Harry Truman quote: "You can't get rich being in politics unless you're a crook." Somebody convince me who's wrong.
It is a public service.
Yeah.
But it's not.
And I mean, it's on both sides of the aisle.
Oh yeah, it's not just one-sided.
Yeah. There's a lot of them on both sides of the aisle. Go up there, can't afford a hotel room. AOC couldn't afford a hotel room an apartment when she first moved up there. She was so poor. Now she has a net worth in excess of $12 million 3 years later. How the hell does that happen on $180,000 a year? I don't know.
Especially when you're AOC. I don't know. Hey, Brentwood chick, I'm August 14th. She's a Leo too.
Not a mouse. Nope. Daryl Lisa is worth more, I think. That very well could be. I honestly don't
Could be.
know who the net worth of all of them. But it's just insane to me that they can go up and become as profitable and rich as they do.
22nd, Brentwood. I'll remember that. That is 8 days after mine. $8.16. Viking Wolf. A bunch of Leos in the house.
The day Elvis died.
Mm-hmm.
The dude had some pipes. But when I see his house, like the green carpet and everything, I'm like, he wasn't well. He wasn't all there his last few years. Bless his heart.
Yeah, he wasn't. He was major druggy. Bless him. I have actually a picture of my Aunt Linda. Y'all are not going to believe this. I think I sent this to you, Clay, with Elvis in Lexington, North Carolina, when my Aunt Linda was in high school and Elvis was just kind of breaking out, and he was playing at the YMCA in a very, very small town in North Carolina, and it's kind of cute.
There was one summer tour when they were all real young, when I believe, if I remember correctly, it was Johnny Cash, Elvis, and Jerry Lee Lewis all traveled in a car around the East and Midwest, touring in honky tonks and little auditoriums. That would have been a hell of a show.
I would have loved to see that.
That would have been a hell
Hedgehog
of a
in
show.
space. Hi, honey. I know you're busy. Thank you. Sorry. I am the interrupter tonight. I am the E train.
Wesley Champion. Hey, man. Hope you were, Dr. M, hope you're doing well. I always enjoy your videos. Nice library.
Do we have a student?
Yeah, yes. And, I was sitting there thinking about the library. It has, as I have moved over the past 10, 15 years, it keeps getting cut down. I used to have probably about 10,000 books and get tired of packing them, moving them, and cluttering up everything. So I have really thinned it down now, which makes me kind of sad, but practical reality is most of them I wasn't going to read again. So I kept the main ones that I used for reference or might use for reference. Hedgehog, you're not interrupting anything. Want to just thank you for coming by. And even if you are part of the replay crew, love having you. Thank you for stopping by and saying hey. Anonymous, your former Senator Burr made a killing off COVID information learned in the Intelligence Committee. Yeah, don't even get me started. Some of these ought to be, what's the federal prison that Madoff was in up in Raleigh?
Butner. It's actually in Durham.
Butner. Yeah. Okay. In Durham. Some of them ought to be spending, a few years in there. It's contemptible.
Oh, and Fauci
Absolutely
and the puppies and don't get me started. The Fauci puppy head thing with the things and the little bugs that just, all the beagles. Sorry. I can't say a lot of the words because it will get you yanked. So.
Yeah, I have been yanked before for no reason, so might as well give them a good reason this time. Wesley, my library is 300 books. I will catch up to you one day. Knowledge is power. I think it is, and more so the wisdom to use it. And I think reading great minds, discussing great thoughts, reading great thoughts helps develop that wisdom to use whatever knowledge you acquire. So I heartily encourage you in your pursuit of books. And I also kind of think I've seen increasingly where some books like are on the web. People think I don't need to buy a paperback because it's on the web. And then I'm seeing where there are people going in and changing the wording of this so that it's more, let's just say, politically correct and not as offensive or threatening or whatever the issue is. But in so doing, they're changing the art. They're changing what the author, intended. It's like going into the Sistine Chapel and putting, tarps over stuff. Now, some of the figures are obviously nude or semi-nude, but people are like, that's pornographic. And I'm like, no, it's art. Now, what's the difference between a nude art and nude pornography? What was the Supreme Court justice? Was it Black, or I forget who, but he described it as this. I can't define what pornography is, but I know it when I see it. It just has a different appearance, vibe, the purpose, the intent of it's different. I don't think necessarily the human form is vulgar. Obviously, I have a strong preference for the feminine. I think feminine's much more graceful, but there's Tallulah.
I thought you were identifying as a Black lesbian tonight. No?
That was last night.
Okay, gotcha.
Tonight I'm
making sure.
Yeah, it's
sorry if that was offensive to anyone.
If somebody comes up with a plan to pay, trans people $3 million in reparations or whatever, I'm converting.
You're converting?
Yeah, for a few days till I get the check.
And you'll convert back.
Then I'll convert back. Yeah, something else.
Yes, they changed.
Variety.
Yes.
Do what?
Roald Dahl's work. Yeah, Runkle had lots to say about that. He wrote lots of children's books. Yes, Tallulah. She's being a goofball.
Yeah.
That was just heartbreaking.
Yeah, and if everything is massaged, sterilized, synthesized, it ends up destroying the intent, purpose, the vitality, the insight offered by those works. And
here's the thing: if it offends you, don't read it. Don't buy it for your kids. I'm offended by books that can be described as pornographic or sexual in middle school. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think that is okay. So if you don't like the words someone uses in their art, in their books, that's your problem. I mean, don't let your kid read it. When my son came home from middle school, he's now, oh Lord, almost 20. He called me a birth giver, and I kind of thought it was funny because I was like, that's weird. But this was years ago, and I didn't realize what was going on in the school system. I had no idea.
Yeah, I think schools ought to just focus on reading, writing, and arithmetic. They're having a hard time doing those three, so they don't have any business doing anything else until they can get those three down pat again. Oh, and I don't even care if they go back to McGuffey's Readers and Ray's arithmetic. They worked. The kids learned, which they aren't really now. And I saw, one study that in each 8-hour school day, there's really only about 30 minutes worth of material introduced to the kids. We're just completely wasting entire days, years of their formative life, the formative years of their life. I just am not a fan of modern education, but in terms of, adults, college students, whatever, they ought to learn not to be so sensitive. Life is just not always that kind and gentle and loving. And you just need to learn, sticks and stones kind of thing.
And it
The old
shouldn't
adage,
be. I mean,
yeah,
no
the old
one
adage
is
is,
going. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
is sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can never hurt me. Most kids today have never heard of that, much less given it any thought. I enjoy reading things that I don't agree with. Catherine, we should all read things that offend us. Yeah, certainly, to a degree. If
Yes.
you're just reading stuff that mimics your views, you're shortchanging your understanding and insight and ability to relate to other people. It's just a different world, and I'm not
It
necessarily a
is.
fan. And I'm getting
I am.
a little
Go
bit
ahead.
more hesitant to remain silent about it.
My daughter was bullied, assaulted, and another thing we're not going to talk about, but in her high school when she was her first semester of freshman year or sophomore year, excuse me. And I was at the school I think like 3 times a week for like 6 weeks, and they would not do anything. And they already had a pending lawsuit against them for the exact same thing for not doing anything, and someone died. Um, so I asked her, I said, Emma, this is during like Christmas break. I said, what do you want to do? She's like, I don't want to go back to school. I said, well, how do we fix this? And, how can you, because I was working full-time single mom. I said, what do you want to do? I said, can you find a school online that you can do from home? And she was like, I think I can. I said, okay, good. I said, I want a PowerPoint on it. All the reasons that you should do it. And so she said, okay, I got it. So a week later, I had an entire PowerPoint presentation on why she should homeschool herself. And she did it. I let her do it. I paid for it, and she did it and graduated, and probably better educated than a lot of the public school kids in Wilmington. So proud of her. And Clay tried to help her with her math one day. That was a disaster because the teacher who was teaching her was, well, I'll let you explain that, Clay.
Well, let's just say they were making it a whole lot more complicated than I would. They're not trying to teach the kids how to do math. I remember I helped one girl. This wasn't Ellen's daughter, but it was another. Like she was 16 and in honors math, and so sit down with her. She was having trouble with something called point slope estimation. And I'm like, point slope estimation, what the hell is that? So I took her book. It was a high school pre-calc book, and it was literally that thick. Well, I started reading the chapter, and after about a page and a half of gobbledygook, and, please understand, this is not a brag, but I've got a PhD in a mathematical discipline. I have worked and used calculus, matrix algebra, partial differential equations in some of my work and studies. So I'm relatively functional in terms of math. Well, I was sitting there reading through this, and after a page and a half of gobbledygook, I finally figured out what they were talking about. It's how to calculate slope. And I just literally slammed the book shut, threw it aside, and go, I could describe this in a paragraph. Rise over run. Boom, you're done. Well, they were trying to teach her this whole calculated, convoluted way to calculate slope. Dumbest thing I've seen. I think oftentimes we in education, particularly higher education, try to complicate things and make them more difficult for people to understand so that we can be seen as the Dumbledores and having the keys to the secrets. So that increases the layperson's need for us.
No,
It's a way for us to make ourselves more important. And that just
it's
is,
the new math. It's the way when Carson was in middle school, he was doing multiplication, multiple number multiplication, and I was like, okay, well, you take this number by that number, then you carry and that number, and you add and you carry, and he was like, no, mom, and he drew out this long like graph thing about. I was like, what is this? And he's like, mom, I don't know what you're doing. And I was like, that whatever you are doing is insane. Because that's just not, I mean, why take 50,000 steps to do what you could do in 3? Oh, damn
yeah,
it.
Clay acting like education hadn't always been more babysitting than actual teaching. There's a lot of truth to that. I do think back in my day, we actually, I would be held accountable for not doing the work, not mastering the material. We very easily could fail and or lose certain privileges, playground, whatever. There was almost a little competition set up in the class. I was always good at reading, so we had small groups, and some of us would be picked to help others in the group learn while the teacher floated to the different groups, that kind of thing. So it was a much more active learning environment than I think what it is now. But as far as for the whole day, there still was a lot of babysitting. But we'd get out 2 or 3 times to go run and play. And I think that's one thing is missing too. Too many of the kids have bottled up energy or too used to being on their phones or computers. They're not getting outside and getting dirty and running and scrapping and playing dodgeball and getting knocked on the head enough.
Yeah, all the games now, and they just sit in front of the screen and do the games, and it's so fast paced that I think that, I mean, Clay, you and I are old school, but I mean, I had the popsicle lady on one block and the candy lady on the other block, and we were told to come home when the street lights came on. And that
Yeah.
was our thing. We would just walk in these people's houses because they were like, these kids live here and it takes a village. Things have changed so much.
Yeah, we'd be anywhere within a 5-mile radius of our home. We'd get on our bikes and pedal down to the park and play, a pickup ball game or something there during the day. And our parents didn't know exactly where we were, had no way of contacting us, and amazingly, we all survived. But
how's that possible?
Nowadays, would I let my kid just be gone all day without knowing where they are or go to the park by themselves? It was a different period, and it's not for the better. But
we got off on a really crazy tangent, didn't we?
Yeah.
Rambling. Sorry about that.
Living up to rambling. Our name.
We might not do the actual subject. We don't know. We're just talking about the things. I am.
What? Viking wolf by blood. You pulled her uncle. I'll take that as a compliment. If it's still a process, it's still learning, sharing ideas, opinions, thoughts, and to me, that's always valuable, whether it's kind of economic or societal, political, whatever.
We're kind of testing out this, just kind of giving our opinions about things and seeing if you guys like it or not. I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
We really enjoy this. We enjoy y'all. And so we're just looking for ways to improve, make it better, and have more fun. And part of that is getting y'all involved as well. We wouldn't be near as happy with what we do without y'all's comments and insight and sharing.
Chunk. No. He's got some of my makeup. Hang on. Chunk. You need?
I'll take the liberties here and go ahead and kill the mic. So You don't hear the bloody screams. While we're, pause here, might as well talk a little bit about what we originally wanted. And that is just reviewing the market. As you know, the market had some, has risen pretty strongly over the past couple of weeks, had some jitters Thursday. And how do you describe it? What's going on in the market? I get that question a fair amount. Well, it's like a mood of the moment. There is no real conviction on the future of the market by the market participants, which I would think if you ask most people, they would indicate that, yeah, the market's up. You look at the increase in the NASDAQ or the S&P, but the simple truth is that the growth in the S&P, the growth in the NASDAQ's really been driven by about 2 to 5 stocks. Apple, Microsoft, Meta, Google. Here's kind of a little infographic that I stole, and it shows that 7 companies make up over 50% of the NASDAQ. You've got Microsoft, Apple, Alphabet, which was called formerly Google, Amazon, Meta, Tesla. All these companies, we got a little interruption going here.
I'm just going to say, hi, everyone. Here's what happens when I'm off screen and Clay needs something to talk about. However, Chunk has come try to have his daddy rescue him from my wrath. Chunk, come on. Let's go. I'm going to take you outside so you can go potty. Chunk.
So that's life around here. So you've got really most of the movement in the NASDAQ 100 is due to these, about 5 of these companies. The rest of the 95 companies are down 2%. For example, Apple is up 40% this year. Meta, Google are up nearly 30% this year. So the movement really is largely in the FANG stocks. Another aspect is that when sentiment turns a little sour and the market starts trending downward, it's almost like the bulls have deigned to meet every bit of selling momentum with more buying. It's like they have endless cash stockpiled somewhere. The overall breadth of the market, however, is it's just shit. The movement's in a handful of stocks. And if you look at the PEs of some of these stocks, you get, for example, Nvidia is about 180. Now, P to E, that's the price, the share price to each dollar of earnings. Historically, this is going to be around 18 to 24. So Nvidia's at 180. People are paying $180 for each dollar of net income. What that really is a bet on the future. Nvidia, for example, is real involved in artificial intelligence. A lot of people are thinking that'll be the wave of the future, so they're piling on. Have they overdone it? If you look at Nvidia, the net income, the sales margins, the revenues have all declined. Amazon's at a P of 277. Apple is high at 30. Netflix is terribly high at 40. It's just, you look at the valuations of some of these and they're stupid. And keep in mind, the other 95 stocks in the index in the NASDAQ 100 are down 2 or 3% so far this year. So, Tuesday we saw the market decline a little bit. The whole market has really become somewhat concerned over the Treasury balance. And what do I mean when I say Treasury balance? Well, this is a graph of the cash that the U.S. Treasury keeps on hand, ranging from 2017 through this week. And you can tell the balance fluctuates wildly. Now, in, the COVID period, with some of the extra printing and debt issued, et cetera, the cash balance soared. And then here on the far right-hand side, you can tell it's winnowed down a little bit, which it doesn't look all that far out of whack. But this was as of about a week ago. The key number is that the balance is down as of Thursday's close to $57 billion. And this was after $11 billion was withdrawn Thursday. So if you look at the average withdrawals, it opened the month at $316 billion. So with 18 days gone in the month, so we don't have Friday data yet, only through Thursday. So with 18 days gone in the month, it's gone from 316 billion to 57 billion. That's averaging about 14 or 15 billion a day in terms of cash burn. So the market is growing increasingly concerned about the potential of a default. Or is it? If I look at the yield curve, you can tell here on the short end that the yield has risen over the past month. Whereas the long end, 10-year, is still at about 3.7. The 30-year is about 4%. Those are not panicked rates. So I think the idea that we get from the information we get from the yield curve is that, one, the market's not terribly concerned about the impact of a default or the probability of a default, or both. If there is a default, it'll be short-lived and it won't have severe impacts. The long end really hasn't moved. So the 10-year Treasury being at 3.7 really doesn't, to me, indicate a lot of fear in the market about the default. I got asked the other day, what are the consequences? What happens if there is a default? Now, we defaulted in 97 for a few weeks, and the world survived. Now, let's see, Anonymous got a question here. Is there a stock index that looks at companies that actually make things? Not companies that get the bulk of their earnings from software, services, or finance. There's 1,000 different indices. Some of them focus only on manufacturing companies. The Dow Jones, for example, is a heavily weighted toward manufacturing and production. The GEs, the Fords, GMs, not a whole lot of tech in there. That the S&P, the NASDAQ would be more influenced by tech because companies like Apple, Dell, and Vita had the chance to transfer over to the New York Stock Exchange, maybe become part of the Dow, but chose to stay in the NASDAQ. So the Dow Jones really hasn't changed a whole lot, but there are indices out there that focus on different segments of the market. Maybe need to come up with some of those for you. And we have a brief update from Ellen from E-Train that Chunk is fine. He survived. He gets into things when he has to pee or wants his ball. The dog is obsessed.
You said it out loud. No, don't say the B word. I'm covering his ears right now. No.
Yeah, he gets a little obsessed with that thing.
A little?
All right, so what happens if there is a default? Well, like I mentioned, we did default in 79. It was a technical issue. There was a check processing glitch. So there wasn't a whole lot of serious repercussions in the economy or the markets. But some people think if an intentional default occurs, it would be much worse. Truth is, nobody knows for certain. It's, to me, it really more depends on the length of the default, because there could be some serious consequences if the default stretches on. What happens if there's a prolonged default? Well, to use a British expression, it can get quite sticky. For example, many people, if there is a extended default, many people predict a recession. And I'm like, well, there's one coming anyway, so that's kind of irrelevant or moot. You could see some additional friction or chaos in the credit markets, lending markets, due to yields on treasuries increasing. Now, if there's a default, you'll probably see people selling treasury bonds. Remember the teeter-totter? So if people are selling bonds, supply increases. If supply increases, then price drops. Now the teeter-totter, if the price drops, the rates increase. Okay, so always keep that in mind anytime I talk about bonds. So if there's a sell-off in treasuries, yields are going to increase. If treasury yields increase, yields on every other bond, every other loan are going to increase as well, because every bond prices off of the treasury curve. Every bond trades at a spread to the treasury. Yes, ma'am.
Turn your gain up a bit. Because whenever you get like a little bit away from your microphone, you fade out.
Sorry about that.
That's better. Yeah.
Every other bond prices off of the treasury. For example, if you have a 5-year treasury at 3%, well, where's the 5-year now? Let me see. 5-year is roughly, let's say 3.7%. 3% for easy math. Well, a corporate bond will trade at a spread to that treasury. So it might, if it's a highly rated corporation, it might trade at a 50 basis point spread to the treasuries. So if the treasury is 3%, the corporate bond will be 50 basis points higher, 3.5%. Okay, so it'll trade at a spread to the treasury. That spread normally doesn't change much unless something happens to the company. But if interest rates rise, the rate on that corporate bond has to rise with it. Almost every bond in existence, including other nations' bonds, trade at a spread to the treasury. So if our treasury rates increase, the rates for all companies, for all loans, mortgages, corporate debt, corporate short-term borrowings, international loans, international corporations, other countries' debt, all increases. So that could cause a lot of issues. That could cause a lot of issues in the credit market. Now, stock markets would see increased volatility. The longer the default, the greater the volatility or drop. The longer the government's not sending out checks, the worse it gets for the stock market. The companies with stocks who are publicly traded, a lot of them depend on debt for financing, for funding their operations, short-term cash needs, buying new plants, equipment, whatever. A further increase in rates will just ultimately destroy them, hurt their ability to run, operate, make profits. It's kind of like you kill them once in the credit market, and then because of their lower earnings, inability to afford interest costs, having to raise prices, losing market share, the stock price drops. So it's like
Well,
kill them once, kill them twice kind of scenario.
that kills a small business too because they can't afford to take out
Get new
loans or
loans.
make their payroll or all the things that you have to do to survive.
And as rates increase, lending standards tighten. It becomes harder to get a loan, not just because with the affordability issue, but their credit requirements increase. You have to have a higher credit score. You have to have more collateral. You have to have better asset quality to lend against.
Here's a uh, as many of you may or may not know, I don't know. I was a hairstylist for 14 years, and we had worked in a salon that was a co-op. So at the end of the year, the quote unquote owner would take, or the guy who was liable for all of us, would take the bills and say, okay, here's what I have to have from every stylist every week to pay, including himself, to pay for just running the business. Um, the shampoos, conditioners, products we used, the rent, the electricity, water, sewer, all the things. And in 2008 or 9, they took away his line of credit, the bank, and they said, sorry, you're done. He's like, that was my like catch all in case like the AC went out or in case something major happened and I had to replace sinks or replace chairs or whatever. That was like my fallback. And he's like, what in the world? Like, how, this is small businesses really, excuse me, are affected by any kind of issue with lending, loaning, all the things.
Yeah, just the turmoil in the credit markets is, most people don't pay much attention to the bond markets, the credit markets, but they are significantly impactful in terms of their reach and just significance to your everyday lives. They're much more important than fluctuations in the stock market to the economy. Between two towns. Then they came for the company I work
To the company.
for a loan. I do MCA loans. We love helping the small companies. Yeah, there are a lot of businesses that do work with small companies, but as the rates go
Hey,
up,
between two towns, I'm sorry, put that company up there because I'm sure there are people who probably need that service right now. If you don't mind.
between two towns, I don't know if you want to give out the name of your company or not, but you're welcome to. We'll be glad to give you a plug.
Mm-hmm. Incredibly. So if anyone here in the U.S. has a small business and needs to borrow money, go to Credibly.
Give them a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Anonymous, GM4G makes substantial amounts on finance, not physical products. True, and it cripples them. It increases their borrowing costs to obtain money to lend, as well as makes their products less and less affordable due to the higher rates.
But there are stocks, excuse me, groups of stocks that are like in hog farming and production of like corn, soybean, like that in the U.S. Are there not, Clay?
Well, you lost me a little bit. Are there hog farms in the U.S.?
No,
Yes.
no. Anonymous is asking about is there an index that looks at companies that actually make things, not
Oh
companies that
yeah,
get
we
the
talked
bulk of
about
their
that while
earnings?
you were gone.
Oh, sorry. I think that then Anonymous said, but GM4G make. Am I? Maybe I'm off, but I didn't think it was answered. Sorry, I was
Yeah,
still
that's
listening.
okay. That's okay.
Yeah, commodities exactly.
I'm a little lost, so I'm just
I
hanging
am
on.
too. E train.
My yeah, she has the ability to carry on multiple conversations and comments with other people or living or dead that I can't always follow.
Easy.
Easy. Sorry. Um
Yeah, squirrel.
it's
Exactly.
it's entertaining.
But I
At
liked a
at the
cookie.
at the worst, it's entertaining. But I
Mhm.
sometimes I just kind of have to sit and stare in awe, going, "What the hell?"
I was like, "Didn't you hear what they were saying down the street?" And he's like, "Huh? How do you even hear that?" And I'm like, "They were talking about this." And he's like, "Oh my God, I have no idea what you're talking about."
So if we look at all the impacts of of a potential default, and I didn't even mention, for example, federal payments will be stopped. So salaries for federal workers, transfer payments, including Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Now, Medicare and Medicaid doesn't necessarily pay direct cash to people, but uh, for example, their payments to providers of services, doctors, hospitals would stop. SNAP payments, food stamps would stop. We already talked about or alluded to the fact that household interest rates would rise. This would include equity lines of credit or credit cards. You could see credit limits cut. Mortgage rates would obviously increase, which would further slam the housing industries. Those people with arms would see their rates jacked up. Remember the subprime crisis where
I have arms.
pe- people had to pay higher and higher rates than what they
Oh.
expected because their mortgage rates adjust. They would get slammed.
You mean an
And long
amortized
term
rate
impacts
mortgage?
do what?
You mean an amortized rate mortgage? ARM?
Yes.
Okay.
Adjustable rate mortgage.
Adjustable, excuse me.
The worst long term impact very well could be another downgrade in the U.S. credit rating. I'm kind of surprised it hadn't already happened with the amount of debt and the soaring interest rates, but this would increase the cost of financing U.S. debt even more. Now, keep in mind, for years we paid $16 billion a year in interest costs. It's about 18% of all taxes collected. Well, just over the past year, this has risen fivefold, fourfold. So you're seeing these increased interest costs taking a bigger and bigger chunk out of federal revenues. That has some very real long term consequences. We're basically now borrowing money to pay interest. That's never a good position to be in. So if there is a default, if it is prolonged, it's a big deal. It could impact citizens in a number of ways. None of this is a good thing. And the thing that's really concerning to me is we're getting to the point where there are no good answers. Absolutely no good answers between two towns. This is going to be a blast. So many ways for the conversation to go, and hopefully I can send you guys a super chat as the result.
She's talking
Well, we
about
appreciate the thought.
Ian being
Yeah,
here.
we're
That would be awesome. And I'm going to send him a screenshot of that because he will find that amusing. Trust me. Um, yeah, the ADHD is a thing. I was going to ask you something, Clay, and I can't remember what it was. Imagine that. Yeah, it's gone.
you'll remember it as soon as I go on to something else.
Hmm. Yep.
Anonymous, credit ratings are a joke. Pretty much, got to give you an amen on that. They they are never really they're very poor predictors statistically. There are actually better ways to predict corporate defaults than the credit ratings, and we saw how they all failed miserably in the subprime crisis. Um, And that would be a good topic for another day's discussion.
I
So,
remembered.
do you remember? All right, go
Yes.
ahead.
Why would anyone get an arm?
Because you can buy more house initially than what you could if you got a fixed rate.
But it can go up,
Yep.
and you
You're
could not be able to afford it.
yep.
And how is that helpful?
Yep.
Or like a
You're
balloon.
you're kind of expecting, hey, the arm will be okay for a few years. Hopefully I'll be making more money, or whatever the conditions are, and we'll be able to convert to a fixed rate. Well, if you've got a teaser rate, a very low rate your first year, you get a mortgage for 2%. So you can qualify with that teaser rate for the size mortgage that you want to get the house you get. Well,
But
after a year,
why would anyone do that? Why would you buy more house than you can afford?
well, a lot of people don't understand the implications of future adjustments to the interest rate and the costs that would be attendant to that.
But why would
That's why we have this channel, to try to help.
well, that's why I'm asking you. Like,
Yeah,
why would anyone
because they don't understand.
that's like a roulette wheel. Like, let's see what happens in a year or two. And I
It's
might
just a
have to
yeah, it's just a practical reality. It just is. It just is. That's all we can say about it. It just
but I
is.
think giving that option is just setting
Yeah, it
someone up
just
for
is.
failure.
It just is. That's why, the subprime crisis blew up so much, because there were so many adjustable rate mortgages, and housing prices collapsed because became people were unable to buy houses. They couldn't afford the mortgage payment. Started losing their jobs, compounded matters, couldn't make their house payments, had more defaults, more foreclosures. Banks started taking hits to the capital. We are not that far away from that at any moment, particularly now.
All right, I've
So,
got a anonymous keeping up with the Joneses. Anonymous, do you know where that phrase came from? I'm waiting. Because it came from Wilmington, North Carolina, and it was Pembroke Jones who owned what is now called Landfall. Um, and he used to fly in all of these wild animals. There are still some there that are not indigenous to this area. Um, that are around, but he would fly all of his really rich friends out there, and they would go hunting these wild animals. But it came from Pembroke Jones from Wilmington, daggum, North Carolina. Oh yeah, it did, not a mouse.
fight, fight.
No fights.
I did not know that.
Really?
But the simple fact is, it happens, and a default could have some pretty serious implications. We haven't even started talking about commercial real estate. Major indicator just came out the other day, the Conference Board's leading economic indicator, and it fell by 0.6%. Okay, no big deal, but that followed a 1.2% decline, and it's fallen for the last 12 months. We're in the longest period of consecutive decline since 2009, and it's declining faster. Now, if you look at the Fed's, New York Fed has its own economic indicator. And what you see here is the difference in the rates between the 10-year bond and the 3-month rate, graphed as a spread. So the one is 1%, or 100 basis points. -1 is negative, which means the 3-month rate is higher than the 10-month rate. Well, once it goes negative, as you can tell, it makes for a pretty good recession is ahead indicator.
Clay, too many
Yes,
arrows.
ma'am. Uh, sorry. But if you look at it right now, it's a negative 1.6%. So, if past is any kind of prologue, this is just another indicator, along with the LEI, along with the near-term forward spread we talked about a few weeks ago. Every major indicator that I know of is pointing toward a recession. And some of them are way steeper, way deeper than previous recessions. So that may also give us some insight into the depth or severity of the recession. I
Can
know
you
some
make that
people
any
out there calling for a mild recession.
can you make that any bigger? It's hard to see without the arrows. There you go.
Is that a little better?
That is better. Just don't put your little curse. Don't do it. Don't put it on there.
There it is right there.
No.
Minus 1.6%. But if you look at the dips being preceded by the shaded areas or preceding the shaded areas, those are the recessions. And so, as you can tell, it's a pretty good indicator. Now, also, I saw a Goldman report that cited cited a firm called Green Street, a commercial real estate analysis firm. And Goldman stated in their report that Green Street provided the most accurate portrayal of the market, and that Green Street was predicting a 25% drop in commercial real estate values. Now, keep that in context. Here's the actual data provided by Goldman. You see down here at the bottom, Green Street's severe drop, and here you see other analyst estimates. But Green Street predicting a 25% drop in commercial real estate values, 21% in residential. To give you some context, median home prices in 2008 fell by about 9%. And you remember the damage and confusion and pain that caused. So this has the makings of, a pretty severe recession. Also, don't forget the banking crisis. It's still in process. We had our illustrious Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, former chair of the Fed, this week mentioning something about more bank mergers to come. Was that a hint, maybe? Is she giving us a subtle hint as to what's coming or what she thinks is going to come? If we look at the data, outflows from commercial banks this week were $27 billion, a continuation of the past 5 weeks. That means deposits are still flowing out of banks, which puts them in dire straits. A lot of stress on the banks. A few days ago, the FDIC, we talked about the drain in the Treasury cash balances. Well, nobody really mentioned it, but a few days ago, earlier this week, the FDIC withdrew $40 billion in cash from the Treasury fund to bail out banks. Kind of fitting, don't you think, that the banking crisis brought about by the jacking up in interest rates is being bailed out by the taxpayers? Other important economic considerations. For example, one thing that I follow is the number of oil rigs. They're down 10% producing. The number of rigs producing is down 10% since February.
Clay.
This simply...
Clay. Stop. Cough. Have something to drink. You're starting to
get a little hoarse.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, y'all.
No, I appreciate it. Hope that's a little better. Usually when Ellen's around, I don't get a chance to talk this much, so I try to no. Um, but oil rigs the number of producing rigs is down 10% since February. So you can expect further declines in oil production, eventually higher prices, more layoffs. This impacts everyone. I see some people thinking that inflation is over and done with. No, it's not. Mark my words, it's not. Hold me accountable for that statement. It's not.
I'll bet you
So
a scotch on that one.
I bet you a scotch, a good scotch, not the cheap stuff. So in sum, there's just not much out in the market from my perspective to generate excitement. No one, no one, including me, can predict absolute market tops. And the old adage is markets can be stupid longer than you can be solvent. So I could be right, but still go bankrupt being right. Question from Quad E. So when is the recession going to get here? Thinking about making a big purchase, a used boat, which will be a money pit. I can't tell you the exact time. It depends on your definition of recession. Some people think the recession's already here. For example, Elon Musk thinks we're already in a recession. And I don't disagree. I think it's just going to continue to get worse. If you look at all the layoffs, the loss in income, um, the increased number of jobless claims, you can make an argument that it's already kicking off. Probably the full brunt of it will be the third or fourth quarter, maybe early 24. So I
Don't
believe
buy
it's
a boat.
coming. The exact timing, I'm not sure of.
Buy a
Or
John boat.
depth. Do what?
Buy a John boat.
Who
Don't buy
wants a
like a
John?
boat. I mean, if you really want to go on the water, oh, it is a money pit.
Yeah, I got to
That's just
admit, I'm a little spoiled. I've got a good friend whose father owned a boatyard, and so he's well connected in the yacht industry. I mean, he literally knows the owners of Fedship and Lursen, the two biggest yacht makers in the world. And so whenever they have a yacht show somewhere around the world, he'll go. And I've gone with him a couple times and gotten on these, 200-meter yachts. They'll have a crew of 30 or 40 staff people. They look like a cruise liner. And it's just absolutely incredible. So, I always wanted to get a big boat and name it the Badonkadonk, big ass boat. Maybe
oh, oh, I lost you there for a sec. What is a
all
John
right.
boat? A John boat is just like
So
wait, hang on. A John boat's like a
go ahead.
little green boat, like a little. I mean, it's not tiny, but it will get you. It'll do sea, it'll do lake, it'll do whatever. But I mean, it won't do for long. It's just how do you describe it, Clay?
It's a flat bottom 12 to 14 foot boat. Probably has a 90 horsepower Mercury on the back for tooling around bayous. Still
Not just
water. They're not
bayous.
good in choppy or open ocean.
Well, they have them in. They take them from like Hilton Head, not Hilton Head, Bald Head to Southport all the time.
Only when the ICW is very still. They will beat your butts off if you're in choppy water.
Well, I mean, they can do it, but it you got to know
Oh,
how
they
to
can do it.
navigate the wakes and do the things.
Yeah, it's like taking one of the what's the four-wheelers on
The
a
gator
test track
or
that has built-in speed bumps. It's just like this all the time.
I don't know.
Drive you nuts.
A rowboat without oars. That's not exactly true there, Anonymous.
What's the per day expense of a 200-meter yacht? The one I was on would burn about 800 gallons of fuel an hour. I'm not sure exactly what all the staff was paid or what other maintenance was required, but there you go. So
Oh,
it
a
depends on whether you
sailboat.
want to put it to sea or just enjoy it in the harbor.
Quad E, a sailboat. Slip will be expensive, so will the boat.
Yeah. I would love to get a, I don't know, 30-foot, 40-foot sailboat, the little cabin in it. But yeah,
Good luck with that.
haven't, yeah, good luck with that. Haven't done that. So anyway, ending, winding up the markets, there's just not a whole lot for me to get excited about. I think there's still tons of risk out there. So I think a recession is highly likely. And I think you'll have the opportunity coming up sometime soon to buy stocks at far better prices. So keep your powder dry, so to speak. Prepare to buy in the future. Now, if we talked about just getting started a savings plan. If you're doing that $50 or $100 a month, keep doing that. You'll end up better off in the long run. But like, if you've got significant assets and you're going to retire in a few years, risk is a significant issue. So you may want to be a little bit more conservative. It's an individual call and decision. So, Anonymous, when the recession hits, you may have the opportunity to buy that boat cheap.
That's true.
Yep.
Let's
It'll
hope
probably
it.
be a lot cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
And there may even be more variety available. So that is a fair point. I was just looking at the time and thinking, we haven't even started on long-term capital management yet.
We're not going
So,
to.
yeah. Would anybody sue me if I didn't quite make it to long-term capital management?
I would. Oh, Lady in Black. Hello, honey.
Good to see you.
There we go.
I did have another thing that I wanted to mention that is kind of a follow-up on the Great Reset.
Ooh.
It's kind of what I would describe as the dirty little secret of the Great Reset.
Spill the tea.
The EU Commission president, European Union president, was addressing a conference last week called the Beyond Growth Conference. Just think about that, Beyond Growth Conference. The name is an interesting name to me. Mm-hmm. And in her speech, she basically admitted that economic degrowth, economic shrinking, is the goal of government, of her government. So shrinking opportunity, shrinking futures, limiting career options, limiting consumer choices is the proper goal of government, which is a fascinating concept to me. Now, we've talked about the
the asshole. Can you make that a little bit bigger? Sorry.
It's full up on my screen.
There's a little. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Yeah,
sure.
Thank you.
We've talked about the WEF, the World Economic Forum, and the Great Reset before, and I even, in the first video on the Great Reset, I showed you about a 1.5-minute video that they made called 8 Predictions. 8 predictions for 2030. And in it, the tagline was, "You will own nothing and be happy." And it talked about you won't need to leave your house. You won't have a car. Everything will be provided to you. Stuff will be delivered by drones. You really have no need for anything else. You'll be happy. You won't even own your house. Well, interestingly, I was on their website today searching for it. The 8 predictions video is no longer on their website. They've taken it off their website.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah. Wonder why. Obviously didn't generate the response they wanted. But don't be fooled. Their goals have not changed. They're just trying to get more sophisticated, let's say, in terms of how they deliver the message. Lady in Black. I like the money market GICs. And some of the money markets are paying 4.9 to 5.2%. Whole hell of a lot better than that 0.1% you're getting at the banks, which is why so many people are moving. The GICs, the guaranteed income contracts, or guaranteed interest contracts, depends on the maturity, the length, as far as the rate you get. But either way, you're a lot better off in those than you are in the bank deposits, which is, again, why so many people are moving. Lady in Black. I saw your video on that. Good. The hell I won't own my own home. That's their goal. And they're not, they were not bashful about it in the video or in some of their other claims. Now, like I say, they're subtly toning down their message in the 8 predictions. That there was no mystery there. They were just very direct. This is what the future holds for you. Now they're a little bit more subtle in their written words and phrases. But like von der Leyen, the EU president, she made it clear. She said the growth model centered on fossil fuels is obsolete. So their goal is clearly to destroy or eliminate, maybe that would be a gentler word, to remove the opportunity to utilize fossil fuels, which without any real substitute to supply the missing energy, you're seeing energy prices increase. The utility that serves us has asked for rate increases of 16% this year and 17% next year. It's just beginning.
Clay?
Yes, ma'am.
So all of the places that these batteries are made for these cars and other things that are supposed to make the things work without the fossil fuels, how are they created?
Well, let me hold off on that for just a minute.
Okay.
Anonymous. Beyond growth means you will be eating crickets and like it. That truly is their goal. That was in their 8 predictions, to eat less meat and utilize other food sources. Other food sources, what do they promote? Eating insects and bugs.
No, it's just chemically created things. I mean, I don't think that they expect bugs. I think they just want to genetically engineer the foods
they have argued for eating insects.
Oh, stop.
Yeah, their words, not mine.
You better not bring a spider in this house for me to eat. I will.
Cockroaches, a little relish on the side. How cool would that be? Now,
bye, Catherine. Thanks for
coming. Van der Leyen also started discussing this, more detail on this growth model. She went into a discourse on the Club of Rome. Now, many of you probably haven't heard of the Club of Rome, but it's a group that leads the quote-unquote degrowth policies and has, since it assembled and issued a 1972 report, which is the basis for much of what you will see promoted by the WEF today, the You'll Own Nothing and Like It group. She commented on how in 1972, no one could imagine the specific technologies being developed and utilized today. But she did, and this is the important part to me, she did talk about how government can use it to control the future. She said, and I quote, "Our compass in this endeavor are the long-standing values, the true values, if you get it right, out of the European social market economy." Social market economy was never exclusively about economic growth. It was always about human development. It never had the sole goal of market efficiency and liberalization. To the contrary, the social market economy functions in the interest of the worker and the community. It opens opportunities, also sets very clear limits. It rewards performance, but also guarantees protection for the big risk in life. Beyond growth, it focuses on public goods such as healthcare, education, skills, workers' rights, personal security, civic engagement, and governance, good governance. Our social market economy, if you get it right, encourages everyone to excel, but also takes care of our fragility as human beings. The values of a social market economy have driven us since the beginning of this commission's mandate. To me, that's just fascinating construction and terminology. I mean, who could be opposed to personal security, civic engagement? You would think those would be good things. Who would stand up in opposition to that? My problem is how the same group defines those. And I've said before that management and business, their sole responsibility should be on earnings. Because if the company doesn't make money, everybody loses their job. If management makes stupid decisions, everybody loses their job. Kind of like, I don't know, SVB, for example. Company ignored earnings and cash flows and was more concerned about diversity, inclusion, whatever else. Its risk manager was busy organizing the diversity and inclusion stuff and completely ignored the risk of the bank's portfolio and changing markets. Hence, the bank no longer exists. If somebody wants to work on this in their own time or they should have the right. I will support them, back them, defend them, whether I agree with it or not. But in terms of running a business, your sole goal is to offer value to your customers, to grow the business. It can't be that single-mindedness can't be distracted by other shiny objects, by other squirrels. First you take care of the cash flow. First you take care of the business. Then once it's up, running, successful, you've got time. If you want to expand into a few other things, great. If you want to sponsor a little league baseball team, great. But your business doesn't exist to support a little league baseball team. It doesn't exist to advance a social agenda. It exists to develop a product or services that the customers see as valuable and are willing to pay for. If they don't do that, you have no future. van der Leyden goes on and brags about the Great Reset, actually. She talks about when the pandemic hit us, our recovery plan was focused not only on restarting our economic activities after the lockdowns were part of their recovery plan. How cool is that? The way you recover economically is to shut down all the businesses and anyway. after the lockdowns, but also on transforming our economic model with a push to decarbonize industries, energy, and transport, with an emphasis on digital skills and digital infrastructure, with new investments for schools and hospitals. Beyond Growth takes care of the next generation. So, one, physical skills, abilities, growing your own garden, making your own stuff are passe. The key is making everybody hooked to digital involvement and having the government take care of your future. That to me is a proposition that has been tried and failed over 100 times in the past. I don't object to somebody else trying it if they want to form a group or a commune or country or whatever, but I'm pretty certain of the outcome. The whole message that she gave was of government taking care of individuals. You will own nothing and like it. That's how oppression is always couched and phrased. So the retarding of economic growth is seen as the goal of the WEF, but wasn't really ever widely discussed in what I've seen. It was a dirty little secret. Well, it's now becoming the central theme which drives all other goals. I mean, you've got the president of the European Union starting to promote it. You know, we're not done with this thing yet. So I thought that was interesting in that the messaging is changed. The form of the messaging is changed. The goals have not changed. These people are still determined to bring about their world vision. Lady in Black, Secret McSquirrels. That's a dear thought.
Can I give a little, just an update, but not a update?
Sure.
So there have been some issues, but I think we've got them all worked out as far as the birds and access to Secret's house and all those things. Paul has been amazing, and Paul has been doing all of the things. I think Rob is going to craft an urn for Secret, which has been welcomed, which is incredible. And Paul wants to do a memorial bench and a plaque. And I think that Rob may also be involved in doing something for that as well, which I'm really excited about. I think that would be cathartic for him. Good. She would love that. Anyway, no, Lady in Black, you're fine. Secret.
Yeah, you mentioned squirrels, Clay. I don't think I'll ever mention squirrels again without thinking about Secret. So it's a very, like I say, just a very dear memory.
Yes, he does make beautiful urns. He made one for his, I think his friend's mother. Is that correct? You probably know better than I do, lady. Yeah, but I'm super excited that he's doing that. And
yeah, he is a talented guy.
Yeah, I can't say a whole lot about all the things, but I will eventually when it's done. But yeah, I think you guys have been the best. I mean, you guys, most all of you know or knew Secret, and she was very special, and I just love her to pieces. So anyway, I'll stop on that. Go ahead.
That's okay. I think I speak for everyone, say that we all still miss her. And, I mean, this format, this activity, she was so intertwined in it, it's hard to engage in it without thinking of her in some shape, manner, or form. She just cast a significant present, over us, the channel. You were very close to her. You were closer to her than I was in terms of daily conversations and all, but she really grew on me, even with the more limited interactions that I had with her. She she's just a beautiful spirit, and we can celebrate that and give thanks for the time that we had with her.
Oh, and Serenity has gone to her new home. So that she was shipped out this past week. Um, yeah, it's the green parrot she had. I don't know if you guys know which one that was, but yeah, she Serenity has gone to Birmingham with Benjamin, and that is awesome. That was very good news that she was able to be shipped out, and that went the money that we did it for the funeral and for her birds. That was part of it, was just getting her birds rehomed. Um, and Serenity is going to be happy. I don't know about all the rest at this moment, but it's being worked on. It's being handled. Paul is just amazing. Like I mean,
He's done yeoman's work.
he's been there the whole time doing all the things all by himself, and I just have the utmost respect for him, to
Yeah,
be
he
honest.
doesn't have to do any of this. He's doing it just because he loves Secret, and it's been quite a burden on him. And
Mm,
but he hasn't complained. I think he was very,
no.
very grateful for the funds raised, and that eased some of the burden and stress that he was having. So, you know, want to thank you all for your contributions and part in encouraging that. It was really
If
very, very kind and gracious of you.
um, you know what? If any of you just want to send a note um, to Paul telling him what Secret meant to you, I think he would love that, and y'all can send that to us. Clay, I don't know what address you want to use.
Just
Uh,
use the Moffat on Money at gmail
I
dot
meant just
com.
if you want to write something down and mail it, um, and then we can send it to him.
Yeah, just
He would
send it via
love that.
email. That'll be the quickest and safest. The postal service is taking 2 weeks to deliver mail now.
Yeah, so if y'all
And
just want to email moffatonmoney@gmail.com. And oh, Ian, just bless
yeah,
Ian. He is just the best human ever. And oh,
that was extremely gracious and thoughtful of him.
mm-hmm.
Just no
So
two ways about it.
yeah, email us and I will forward everything to Paul. But if he didn't know that Secret had this other life on YouTube, and to know what he is a very good elf, Brentwood check. Um, to know what she meant to us, I think um, would be huge for him. He's trying to still piece together the two parts. He was with her. Some people have asked me, he was with her when she passed. She did not pass alone. He was there. Um, oh, Lady in Black, Ian turned off his super chats, and he said, if you want to donate, um, then donate to, sorry, I'm reading chats. The funeral charity.
Yeah. So he turned off his super chats and gave the link to the fundraiser for Secret's burial. And
Yes.
within 30 minutes, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
The fund
We
had
hit the
kind of
goal.
stalled, if I remember. I don't know the exact numbers. The fund
It
had
was
kind of
around
stalled somewhere around 7,000.
6,000. Yeah,
Yeah,
around 6,000, and
6,500,
then
somewhere around there. And within 30 or 45 minutes, it was up to 11,000, with 10,000 being the goal. So it was extremely
it was
helpful,
great.
extremely kind.
And I sent Paul an email that night. I know he was asleep because he's in Scotland, of course. And I said, check the fundraiser. And the next day, I got an email going, oh my God, how did this happen overnight? And I said, it's Ian brought it home, man. He did it.
Yeah. So much respect to Ian for that.
Yes, he, oh, bless him. Bless him.
Yeah, and then Ian gave credit to chat. His people, responded very graciously, and but he set up the challenge, and he deserves
Mhm.
props for that.
Yeah, it called overseas when you were. Yes, he did call overseas when I was worried. 4 hours. I will tell this story again. The last thing I heard from Secret was 11:24 a.m. that Saturday, and she said, "Ooh, Ellen, can you do me a favor?" And I said, "Sure, honey, anything for you." And then nothing, and nothing. I was like, maybe she's taking a nap. And 4 hours later, nothing. And I freaked out, and I sent everyone, all of the mods that I know she mods for, on Twitter. I said, there's something seriously wrong. And they were like, it's been 4 hours. I said, you don't understand. Something is wrong. And Ian did. He called Glasgow police twice on my behalf because I don't have international calling. And he was like, I got it. And then they were like, she's fine. And she's jovial. I'm like, she just got out of the hospital. She can't walk. She's not freaking fine and jovial. Call him again. And Ian did. And apparently there was someone there helping with the birds, and they didn't check IDs to see who it was. So the ambulance was called not long after that. And
Yeah,
then Paul
that's
reached out to Toots, and then she called me. Then we called Ian.
yeah. We'll probably never know the full details, but that's enough to know. So that was some difficult days. Ellen was worried sick.
Yeah.
She had a very strong intuition. She was worried sick. So yes, I am a
Every-
firm believer in women's intuition. I don't understand it, can't always explain it, but there's something to it. So it is that time of night. It has been a fun couple of hours being able to share and fellowship with you.
Thank you, Brent Woodchuck.
Greatly, greatly appreciate your support, your encouragement, your comments, and just the kind and courteous love that you share with us during this time. We enjoyed it. Hope you did, and we'll look
Thank you.
forward to
Thank you
seeing
all for being,
you
if you don't mind.
again soon.
Oops. Thank you all for
Next
being
week,
here. We really appreciate it.
yeah. Next week we'll talk about Bernie Madoff. So I may have to delay long-term capital management, but we'll talk about Bernie Madoff next week. So y'all come.
If we
And
can get
thank
to
you
it
all.
with me and Ian, we'll see.
Yeah. No guarantees, but that's the goal. We always have goals. Thank you all very much. Y'all have a great night. Our time is up, and we do thank you for yours. Blessings to you all. Good night.